Okay, Chair, you may wish to begin.
Right, thank you. Do you need to count him in, James? James, do you need to count him in?
I believe David. Dave.
Hello? Right, thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to this evening's virtual Audit and Risk Scrutiny Committee, hosted by Bassett Law District Council. Given the current challenging situation we are all facing following the outbreak of COVID-19, legislation was approved that enables councils to hold virtual meetings rather than required members to be present in a committee chamber when making a decision. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distance, equality, and allow business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. It is very important that councillors can hear each other, so I will invite members in alphabetical order to introduce themselves and in so doing test their broadband connection. I am Councillor David Challoner, Chairman of the Audit Risk Committee for Bassett Law District Council. Councillor Carolyn Troop is the Vice Chairman of this committee. Can you hear us okay, Carolyn?
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gary Clarkson.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Councillor Entwistle is not in the meeting yet. He should be in the meeting now, just joined.
Right. Councillor Cliff Entwistle, can you hear us okay?
Yes, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
Councillor Freeman is still waiting to join the meeting.
Yeah, I've got Councillor Sybil Fielding down. Are you there, Sybil?
No, it's me.
Right.
No, it's me, David.
Right, okay. We're just waiting on Councillor Jill Freeman. Councillor John Ogle.
I'm here, Chairman. For everybody else, East Markham Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
Yeah, I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Soffler.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So we're just waiting, obviously, on Jill for her to join the meeting. We also have a number of officers in attendance. David Hill.
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Linda Turner.
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Julie Folger.
I'm here, thank you.
Ellen Hinsley. Jill's here. I've got you now, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Lavender.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Also joining us this evening, we've got Amjad Ali.
I'm here, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And John Presley.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. If a number of members lose connection and the meeting becomes inquorate or the live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure as we all ordinarily would do. However, I would like to highlight that this committee is being live streamed on social media, so all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. I would ask members when they're not speaking to please turn off their microphones. Agenda item number 1 is apologies. Are there any apologies?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Nichols.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Are there any declarations of interest by members? Take that as a no. Are there
Just
any?
to confirm, we've not received any, Chair, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Is there any declarations of interest by officers?
None of those either, Chair.
Right, thank you. Agenda item is number 3, is the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of September 2020, pages 5 to 8 of your agenda. I will move around in alphabetical order to determine if you are in favour, against or abstaining that they represent an accurate record. Please answer clearly and only when your name is called. Thank you. Councillor David Challoner, I'm in favour. Councillor Carolyn True.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
For.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
Abstain, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Soffler.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4 is the minutes for action and implementation list, page 9 and 10 of your agenda. I can inform you that these have been addressed. Agenda item number 5 is the outstanding minutes list, pages 11 to 12 of your agenda. There are none. Agenda item 6A is budget monitoring and capital programme update report to the 30th of September 2020, pages 13 to 46 of your agenda. And I would ask Julie to read this report out, please, and present it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the Budget Monitoring and Capital Programme Update Report to the 30th of September. So this is the second quarter position. So if we look at, or if we start with the General Fund at paragraph 3.5, we'll see that the current forecast is for an overspend of £745,000. There are a number of variances that make up this forecast overspend, and they're detailed in Appendix 1. However, there is also a summarised analysis of the major factors that are affecting this variance at paragraph 3.9. Members will note that the overspend has moved between quarters 1 and 2 and is increased by £607,000. The table at paragraph 3.12 contains the major factors that have contributed to that increase. If we now look at fees and charges at paragraph 3.15, the table below shows that the forecast outturn position is for an underachievement of fees and charges of £20,000. I'd just like to draw members' attention to the to be aware that that £20,000 does not include any impacts of COVID-19. They are reported separately. Moving on to the housing revenue account. The current forecast is that there will be an overspend of £17,000 on the housing revenue account. The table at paragraph 3.18 shows that expected variance. Appendix 2 will give you the full details of this expected variance, and the main reasons for the variance are contained at paragraph 3.20. If we look at the movement between quarters 1 and 2, we can see that the position at quarter 2 was reduced by £19,000, and the main reasons for that are detailed in the table at paragraph 3.22. If we consider the impact of COVID-19 on the variances contained within this report, I'd just like to make members aware at paragraph 3.23 that the situation, as we all know, is an ever-changing and fast-moving situation, and therefore the financial estimates given must be treated with some caution. Looking at performance management, during quarter 2, there were a total of 5% of codes that were not submitted within the specified timetable. Moving on to the capital programme, members will be able to see at the table at paragraph 3.27 that the consolidated capital programme budget is now 36.211 million. There are a number of additions and amendments that will require approval at quarter 2, and they are detailed in Appendix 3. The table 2, which is at paragraph 3.30, shows that as capital expenditure at the end of September represented an 8% spend, the forecast for the year end is for a spend of 21.3 million against a budget of 36.2 million. Appendix 4 provides you an update of all the current capital projects and the forecast to the end of the financial year. But I'd just like to draw your attention to paragraph 3.33 and the impact of COVID-19 on the capital spend, and that details that a number of major projects have not been able to start or continue during the pandemic, and they have had quite a severe impact on the spend so far on the capital programme. If we look at the resourcing of the capital programme, the table 3 at paragraph 3.35 shows how the current budget requirement of 36.2 million will be financed. Capital receipts, table 4 at paragraph 3.36. This shows the current level of capital receipts expected at the end of September. Treasury management and borrowing. I can report that in this quarter there has been no new long-term borrowing and there has been no short-term borrowing. As at the end of September, the council held £98.863 million in loans, and they are detailed in the table at paragraph 3.39. In terms of investments, the table at paragraph 3.42 shows that the council had a total of 21.98 million invested. The Bank of England base rate is currently 0.1% and hasn't changed this quarter. Moving on to Prudential Indicators, I can report that the Council has, at all times during the financial year, operated within the Treasury limits and the Prudential Indicators that are set out in the Council's Treasury Management Strategy. The table at paragraph 3.49 compares the approved Prudential Indicators with the position as at the 30th of September and the projected outturn for 2021. There are no issues to highlight to members on these indicators. And that is it, and I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for that report. I will now go around the councillors again in alphabetical order, asking if they've got any questions for the report done by Julie. So myself, Councillor David Challoner, I have got no questions. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
Hello, Chairman. Yeah, page 43 on the spreadsheets there. Can I go back to this health bus? And they'll keep on about it, but I can't understand why, with a budget of 153,000 thereabouts, we get an increase now of a third. A third of that money has to be added on, £50,000, because there's a price increase in the goods. It says due to delay in project approvals. Who has delayed the approvals? That it's costed us this much extra, which is a lot of money. Please, Chairman.
Thank you. Can you answer that, please, Julie, if you can?
Sorry, Councillor Troop, I didn't hear which one you were referring to on page 43. I don't know if we've all got the same page numbers to be on this. Can you just...
Yes,
Sorry.
okay. It was the health bus.
The health bus.
Towards
right.
the bottom of page 43.
Yes, yeah, I've got that now.
Yeah, I wondered why the budget has had to increase by a third of what the original was to accommodate what it says here about there's a price increase in goods due to delay in project approvals. So who's delayed the approvals that is costing this much extra? Do we know?
I'm sorry, I haven't got that information in front of me. I'm not sure if Linda or Dave have got any further information, but if not, I can get you some more information.
Chair, Linda would like to speak.
Yeah.
She's raised her hand.
Yeah. Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you. Yeah, there is some delays with placing the order. That was due to the COVID restrictions with contractors. That has increased it slightly, but I think what's actually happened is since they originally spec'd the bus up, they've decided on some further enhancements. So I think the actual original spec was the 100 keg, but then they've actually thought, right, we're going to add this, we're going to add that. So the actual spec has changed quite considerably. I think that's the impact of the increase. Does that help, Carolyn?
Yeah, I can understand that, but I'm interested now who's actually agreed that for a start and why the approvals have not been in place and therefore it's cost more money.
We can check who's actually authorised that for you.
Yeah, well, I'm concerned that we are spending now, being asked to spend a third actually of what the original budget was to accommodate something that seems as though it's been delayed. I'm not sure why it's been delayed because it doesn't say, it just says delay in project approvals on there. Why has that happened? That's what I'm asking, because it's costing quite a lot of money for it to go forward. From what you're saying, Linda, it sounds as though they've been adding extra things in. So we end up now with £50,000 more having to be found for this health bus, which is not good management, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I can look into that, Carolyn.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, just to support Carolyn on this. I know where she's coming from, because initially, if this was a project and a programme would be set out for the scoping of it, what was needed of a facility, then for it suddenly for it to come in front of like this committee again, and then you find that it's been delayed, but it's gone up by about £50,000. That should have all been based on the initial decision to make what this health bus was going to provide within the district. Part of the scoping of it, and obviously the financial scoping. But yeah, we look forward to obviously that reply on that, Linda. And when the reply comes, could you send it out, please, to all members of the committee?
Chair, David Hill would like to speak.
Yeah, no problem. David.
Yeah, just to add, this isn't actually costing the council anything. This is all funded from the Better Care Fund via Notts County Council. So I suspect what's happened, but I don't want to guess, but I suspect that we've upped the spec because additional funding's become available. So we'll provide a full answer, but as I say, it's not a direct cost to the council.
That's okay. Thank you for that, David. Thanks for that, Carolyn. Councillor Gary Clarkson. Councillor Gary Clarkson, have you got a question at all?
Councillor Clarkson, can you unmute your microphone, please? I suggest we go back to Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, thank you, James. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Yes, I have a question, Dave. Appendix 1, and it's under the section street cleaning, and I can see it says they've made 92k savings within that department. The concern is, Dave, that I contacted the council this week with regards to an issue in my own ward, and to where you could tell there were pressures on this department. It was basically cleaning leaves up. And my question is basically, Dave, is that intentional to kind of make that sort of saving, or to have that sort of vacancy, or is that in hand to where, you know, we're going to get up to full speed? Because this is, to me, Dave, bread and butter stuff that the streets are cleaned as they should be, and like such as we've got at the moment with the leaves on the floor. It's health and safety, Dave, slippery underfoot, and if they're under pressure where they can't clean these leaves up and they need to be, then it's an issue to me, Dave. That's all.
Yeah. Could you answer that question if you can, Julie, please, on the financial side?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I think there is some movement, I believe, between the street cleansing department and the refuse department in terms of moving people around to provide services. But I can't answer that directly. It would perhaps have to come from the manager of street cleansing. But I think it is quite an historic situation where one tends to offset the other.
Right.
Chair, David Hill would like to speak. He's raised his hand.
No problem. David?
Yes, thank you, Chair. You'll see throughout the appendix on the details of the savings that there's quite a few vacancy savings. None of the vacancy savings were intended, and we don't have a policy of not filling the posts when they become vacant, apart from when COVID hit. And we necessarily paused the recruitment process for vacant posts for about 3 or 4 months, purely because of the difficulty in getting face-to-face interviews and appointing people. So I'm guessing that a lot of that vacancy savings there was through that pause in recruitment. So it wouldn't be deliberate. And as we've lifted that recruitment, I think that vacancy will disappear in the second half of the year, that saving.
Okay. Are you happy with the answer there, Cliff?
Yeah, that's clear, David. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman.
Yes, David. Can I ask, David, is it just the street cleaning in towns and not the outlying districts? Is that being stopped as well? Thank you.
I don't think we'd stop street cleaning as such. The question was about the vacancy saving and the fact that we weren't deliberately not filling posts. We were just pausing it whilst there was difficulty in doing face-to-face interviews to recruit.
Yes, thank you.
Just to obviously support part of this, obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, the council has done its best to still keep providing the services, which we all know. And obviously one of the most important one is obviously the refuse side, which has carried on where some councils within Nottinghamshire just stopped it. So I would presume that staff availability would be and then prioritising where these staff can go, i.e. if some people can be took off, say, street cleaning or whatever that comes under, and to help out on refuge, I think it would all come down to, because people were shielding and things like that, and we have got some employees that were shielding. So I think it's a matter of balancing the staff out and as where making the jobs, you know, available to fill in so that we can still carry on doing the services. I would presume personally, and it's wrong to presume, that obviously when things start coming back to some kind of normality, that the road sweeping machines and things like that will be back out doing the job what they're supposed to do out in Bassetlaw. But I think it's because they've been using the manpower resources to keep the vital services going. So is that okay, Jill? That's my explanation, Doug.
That's fine, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle, have you got any questions at all?
I'd just like to draw attention to the 5% of information that wasn't updated, Chairman. I know it's off in the past, it's been more than that, but just be interested to know why we couldn't get that 5% in.
Okay. Would you like to answer that, please, Julie or David?
Yes, I can answer that, Chair. Thank you. Yes, there is. You're right, Councillor Ogle. It is actually quite low this month. There is always an element, unfortunately, where we're unable to get submissions of reports within the timescale, and that can be for a number of reasons. It might be that officers are off sick, it might be that they're on leave, etc. And some departments are very small departments, so they haven't necessarily always got somebody who can automatically fill in for them. When that does happen, the finance team do the estimates on behalf of the managers. So finance do have a certain amount of knowledge that they can draw on in order to put an estimate in. So it's not that the estimate isn't put in at all, but it is based on a number of assumptions from finance. And obviously we don't want there to be, we don't really want that figure to be too high, because it could impact on the actual reporting that we're giving out.
I could have just asked, Chairman, if any of those figures go on for 2 months, you know, if somebody's away, would they be estimated for 2 months, or can somebody of responsibility fill them in? That could be a concern if the figures we weren't looking at weren't correct, that we're looking at weren't correct.
Yes, I agree. What we tend to do is, if somebody is unavailable, we will go to their line manager first to see if they can complete the return on that person's behalf. So it is rare that we have it going on for more than 1 month. It is rare. I'm not saying it never happens, but it is rare.
Thank you for that reply.
Yeah, cheers, John. Councillor David Presley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. On page 4 of page 20, Chairman, 32312. There's a bit about income from illegal sales, fees and charges, and then the other bit is that there'll be a cost filling arrangement where 75% of relevant losses will be concentrated by the government, but we have to we have to pick it up. It looks through a lot of these points in this papers that the council is picking up the problem from COVID that we have to pay for, and we're not being compensated by government. And this is part of it. Is there any way we can get around that, Chairman?
Julie, would you like to answer, or David?
Yeah, I can take this one, Chair. We have numerous government grants, and I think there's about 19 at the last count, different government grants. The bits that compensate us directly are the emergency funding grant, of which we've had 1.9 million, and what you were referring to there, which is the compensation for loss of income grant. And you're quite right, the compensation for loss of income, excuse me, do apologise. I think you'll have to just come back to me. I've just lost my voice a little bit.
Hope it's all right.
Chairman.
Hello.
I think some of the reason is, as Julia probably told us, about the voluntary arrangements.
Yeah, I can update you a little bit, but Dave might have more to add. Yes, as it actually says in paragraph 3.23, the government is compensating us for loss of income, but it isn't compensating us 100%. So they're expecting that we will stand the first 5% of any budgeted income that we've got. And thereafter that, they will compensate us for 75% of the remaining loss. So obviously that does mean we do have to stand some of the losses. There is also something else to consider, in that not all income is covered by the scheme. Whereas fees and charges income is covered by the scheme, things like investment income aren't covered by the scheme at all. So dependent on the type of income can depend on how much compensation we are eligible to claim from the government. But Dave might have a little bit more to add now.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back now. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're aware, but last week I was tested positive for COVID, and I've still got the horrible cough that still remains with you for a while after you've recovered. Yeah, much the same as Julie said. There's two chunks of funding. There's emergency funding, which is supposed to give us the expenditure, if you like, be able to function as normal, and there's the loss of income. And under the loss of income, one of the questions they asked early on on the returns that we do was what available reserves we've got, and they quite promptly said when we returned that you must use some of your reserves to prop your budgets up as well. So hence the 75% and the 5% deductible. So they're really relying on us to make a contribution towards those costs now as well. Despite the funding that we've been given, the 1.9 million, and we're going to get later this month 340,000 towards the loss of income, which still leaves us about £620,000 short in this year. We don't know what it will be next year, whether if it continues into next year, and you will see as we go through the budget setting process that we're going to make certain assumptions as to what we will be losing next year. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Presley.
Are you okay with that, David?
Well, it does, Chairman, but what it means then, we have to use our reserves, and then get below a certain amount, we're in trouble again. So we've got to keep the reserves up to a certain amount. The government says that, will then say they want us to use the reserves. How much do we have to lose before we're in the wrong again, Chairman?
Yeah. Can you give a quick answer on that at all, David?
Yeah, on general fund, if I just talk about general fund, HRA is pretty safe. General fund, we've got about £3 million in reserves. It's referred to in the report. And even if we take 600,000 out, we're down to 2.4 million, which is our minimum balance is £1 million. So it will still be 1.4 million above that. So it's quite fortunate that we've got quite a lot of headroom in the general reserve at the moment, unlike some authorities who are struggling with their reserves.
Is that okay, David?
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I think just to support Dave Hill as well, obviously, like he stated, that this, obviously we can work out the financial impact, what it's going to cost us, and so we'll have to dip into his reserve for this year. It's if it carries on into next year and what will happen after that, because I think it's going to roll over quite a lot. And I think, although like David has stated, we are in a healthy position compared to some councils, I think it might have a dramatic impact on certain amount of investment. But as long as we stay above that threshold, which we stated, which is £1 million, then I think we should be okay. Councillor Lynn Schuler, have you got any questions?
Yes, please, Chair.
Thank you.
Can I, first of all, page 41, toilets and disabled facilities, it says that the forecast variance is 27,867, and it says scheme completed, need explanation for overspend, how to fund. Oh, can I ask, when we're saying we need an explanation for the overspend, is that we just don't know why we've overspent it, or?
David or Julie?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Julie. This is the facilities on Bridge Street that we've done. We had some difficulty in the design work on those, and we had an enhanced change in places facility put in there that we didn't originally budget for, plus the security gates that we had in, and we added those at a later stage when we finally got the agreement to charge for them. So there was certain extras added on. So we do know what it was. And I think that the comment that you see there was a comment that we put in to ask the budget officer why the overspend was there. When this report does go to Cabinet on the 1st, that will be amended to give a fuller explanation.
So it cost us an extra £27,000 to put some payment facility into it.
Well, it's not exactly that. It's the budget that we allocated in the first place was quite low for the spec that we wanted. It wasn't all extra money. We put some money to one side to give a basic toilet facility, and then we realised that we needed extra in there.
Right, thank you. And then on page 17, the table at the top of page 17, it talks about external consultants and private contractors. Is that indicative of a skills gap that we've got within the workforce? And does this relate also to the vacancy factor?
David or Julie would like to take that question.
Yes, I believe some of it is where we're using external contractors, consultants instead of appointing people. And I think that is sometimes because there is potentially a piece of work that needs some very specialist knowledge to enable it to be done. So there is an element of that, yes, and it is offset by the vacancies within the council. In terms of a wider skills gap, again, I've not really got that information in front of me.
Right. Are we actually conducting any work looking at the skills gaps that we've got within the organisation?
I'm not aware that we are. I'm not sure whether Dave can answer that.
No, I'm not aware of any specific piece of work ongoing on that. No, it's a question for our HR department.
Can we find out? It appears to me that if we're looking for external consultants in private contractors, then this could be something that we could actually fill ourselves with proper workforce structures, etc. And it would appear to save some money. The only other thing that I would back Councillor Troop up on her questions, read the health bus. That was something that I had noted, and it does seem to be quite a upscaling in charges there. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I think the answers was given obviously by David as regards the health bus, that it's not really going to have a financial impact on Bassett Law Council as a council. I think it's being funded, like he stated, through a county project. But obviously, with us asking for it, I think it has to come through our books kind of thing to show that where the money's been spent. Councillor Ben Soffler, have you got any questions?
No questions, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Julie for her report, and obviously David assisting her with some of the answers. Once again, Julie, thanks for the report. I will now move.
Chair, we went to try to go to Councillor Clarkson.
Oh, sorry.
But we need to go back if he has any questions.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologise. Councillor Gary Clarkson, have you got any questions?
No question, Chair.
Right, thank you, Gary. I would like to move to the recommendation on page 14. Members, please respond if they are in favour, against or abstaining. Please answer clearly and only when your name is called. Thank you. Councillor David Challoner, I'm in favour. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Freeman. Yeah. Councillor Jill Freeman. Councillor John Ogle.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
In favour, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Soffler.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Obviously, that's carried unanimously, so, and we didn't make the contact with Jill, so. Right, thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item number 7, which is the Internal Audit Progress Report 2020-21, pages 47 to 82 of your agenda. And I would ask Amjad to give this report, please. Thank you, Amjad.
Thank you very much, Chair. Since the last Audit and Risk Scrutiny Committee meeting, Chair, we've finalised a further 5 internal audit reports, and they're shown on page 47 in section 2.1. Our actual report, Chair, starts on page 49. And if members could just turn over the page to page 51, they'll see a graph just showing the progress where we are in terms of the internal audit work. In the current situation, in the lockdown we're in, we've continued to provide the internal audit service with the help from the council's management teams, and we continue to do our work remotely using share files and other processes. and we're on track, Mr. Chair, to deliver the internal audit plan by the end of March. If members can turn over the page to page 52, you will note the 5 reports there showing our opinions for each of those, and the number of actions that we have raised across those reports. So the follow-up that we've undertaken, this was to follow up previously agreed management actions. We've noted that reasonable progress had been made to implement those actions. We've also undertook 4 assurance audits: parks and open spaces, insurance, tenant engagement and treasury management. And that they're all showing as positive opinions. We've raised a number of actions which have been agreed with the management team, and implementation dates have been agreed as well. Over the page, Chair, on pages 53 and 54, section 2.1, which just gives a high-level overview in terms of the actions that we've raised. And there's details are attached at the back in terms of the executive summaries and action plans, which I don't intend to go through, but just to give you a sort of a high level. So in terms of the follow-up, as I mentioned, we gave that reasonable progress. We've noted it's a positive opinion. We followed up 29 previously agreed actions, of which 17 had been fully implemented, 6 were ongoing, and 5 had not been implemented. So those that are not fully implemented, we re-raised those. On parks and open spaces, Chair, we again given this a positive opinion and said there was reasonable assurance. We have nevertheless raised 5 medium and 2 low priority actions around parks and open spaces. And again, they've been agreed with the management team, and then action plans are in place for those. The insurance audit resulted in 3 low priority actions. And as we mentioned in previous meetings, Chair, low priority actions tend to be sort of more of the housekeeping type of actions. And in this report at the back where we've got the executive summaries and action plans, we're not detailed those. We've just detailed anything that's classified as medium. And there's not any high priority actions that we raised across our reports, which is a good result for the council. Tenant engagement, 2 medium and 2 low priority actions. And again, we've agreed that with the head of housing. And treasury management, there was 1 medium and 1 low priority action. So overall, a positive result, Chair, in terms of the overall assurance for those reports. On page 55, Chair, you'll see where we are in terms of the remaining of the audit plan. So we've got a number of reports that have been issued in draft and are with management for their comments. And once we get those back, we will finalise those. We've got some audit work that's actually currently taking place. And the remainder of the audit plan is planned in to be delivered. And our intention is to complete all the audit work by the close of March, with a view of providing our final lot of reports at the May meeting along with our annual opinion. Turning the page, Chair, to page 56. There's just been 1 change to the audit plan that was agreed by this committee, and that relates to a fleet management audit. Head of Neighbourhoods has requested that we defer this audit into next year. And the reasoning for that is that the council have employed a new fleet transport manager who is actually currently looking at the operations and processes and procedures that are within that section. And therefore, it was felt more prudent that once those processes have been embedded, that we then come in and undertake that review. So we'll be planning the audits for next year with the management team, and the intention is to include that fleet management review as part of that. From pages 59 right through to 82, Chair, are the details of the executive summaries and action plans for those 5 reports. And we've only highlighted the medium priorities. As I mentioned, the low ones tend to be more housekeeping. And as I stated before, there's not been any high priority actions raised. So as I mentioned, it's a positive result there. Appendix A, Mr. Chair, is on page 57. That details the reports that we've previously presented to this committee. So we're just keeping an entire log so you can see exactly where we are with the plan. And that's it really, Mr. Chair. I'll take any questions members may have.
Thank you, Amjad, for your report. I'll go through the committee again, asking if anybody has got any questions for Amjad, please feel free to ask them. Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got no questions. Councillor Carolyn Troop.
You might know, Chairman, I have got a question.
Yeah, no problem.
Hello, Amjad. Page 67, you've talked about parks and open spaces, and halfway down the page it mentions external training, and I see there is a plan to get this training done in January next year, but I'm really amazed that only 15 of the 30 inspection staff have received training and 9 of them were out of date. Knowing how these people inspect playgrounds, for one thing, where equipment can be vandalised, fall to bits, I think it's so important. There is quite a risk there that someone could get injured on a piece of equipment, and there's a claim then against the council. So as soon as that's done, I'd like actually to know that has been completed, because I think it's really important, Chairman, that we have got things in place that protect the council from possible claims. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Chair, if I can come back on that point, as you mentioned rightly, we have raised that as a medium priority. Some may argue why isn't that a high priority? The reason why it isn't a high priority is because there is training happening. It's not to say there's no training happening. We found that some people hadn't had the relevant training, hence why we raised it. In terms of your point about making sure that you get that assurance, management will be able to provide you with that assurance from that department. But as you know, as part of our audit work, we do some follow-up work. Yeah. So any actions we raise that we have raised to date this year, and any actions that we raise for the remaining reports, we will track those and make sure they're implemented and bring a report to you to say that. And I know there's internal tracking happening with follow-ups as well in terms of recommendations. So hopefully next time I come to this committee, I may be able to give you a better conclusion of that.
Yeah. Can I just say thank you for all your hard work?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just to support that as well, Amjad, Carolyn. Obviously, I'm chair of Health and Safety Committee. What I'm going to do is I will contact Jim Moran and ask him to do with this, like you said, about obviously if somebody has an accident on a piece of equipment and that we've inspected it, obviously, once again, to safeguard the council, that this becomes, if there is any incident or kind of thing, that this is fetched up through the Health and Safety Committee meeting, because then obviously I think it's quarterly, the report goes to Cabinet as well. So it's highlighting if we have got a problem in as parks and open spaces, which we know we have with vandalism and things like that. But if a member of public was to injure themselves, then obviously the onus comes back onto us. And that's where it comes back as well, Amjad, as you well know, through the audit trail, if somebody has been correctly trained on the inspection of this equipment. So it's all linking everything together, which makes it very important. So thanks for bringing that up, Carolyn, and thanks for your input as well on that, Amjad. But I'll make sure that comes through another angle as well, through the Health and Safety Committee.
Thank you, Chairman.
I think you're absolutely right, Chair. I think if you look at any of those actions there, as a council, health and safety is paramount to residents, to all your stakeholders, to your staff. And there's a number of actions we raised there. So if anything was to happen, heaven forbid, you need to be able to demonstrate that you've got those systems and processes. So even thinking a log of repairs once you've done the inspections, to show that you've actually done an inspection, you've then followed it right through to the repair and retesting, making sure you're doing the risk assessments. So everything, all of those actions that are on the parks and open spaces, they actually all sort of go together. So I think absolutely right, Chair.
Right, thank you. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
No questions, Chair. Thanks for the report.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
No questions, Chair. Thank you very much.
Councillor Jill Freeman.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Ogle.
Just wondered, Chairman, how COVID was affecting the efficiency of the department.
Would you like to answer that, Amjad?
Certainly. In terms of when you say department, do you mean the internal audit team or
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of in terms of the internal audit team, as soon as we went into lockdown, the first lockdown, we started putting systems and processes in place with our clients in terms of looking at doing stuff more remotely, similar to what we're doing today. We've been having our meetings with our clients through Teams. We've set a greater sort of a gap in terms of making sure we've got enough time to get the information we need from staff, from council staff, and to perform our audit work. And I think it's gone well because we managed to adjust to this like you have done with the meetings you're having. But also I think what's been very important for us is the staff at the council who've been available for us to undertake this audit, because with COVID, as you know, a lot of people are off sick, people have had to take on additional responsibilities, but nevertheless, council staff have been forthcoming, and because of that, we've been able to carry on with the audit work.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Amjad. Councillor David Presley.
No question, Chair. Thanks for the report.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Schuler.
Yes, please. Just quickly, thank you, Caroline, for talking about the need for it to be potentially be a higher risk. But also, it does say it was identified on page 67, sorry, that Clarborough Ball Court is not documented on the council website, and therefore a full list of play areas is not documented. Do we know that that's the only one that's missed off? And can we make it? Why is there nothing within the action plan to say that we need to ensure that we've got a full list of parks and open spaces?
Yeah, certainly. It is in the action plan in terms of the full report that's gone to the management team. That was the only one that we could find that wasn't documented, so we haven't raised it as a medium risk priority. But as soon as we found that out, we made management aware, and I think action was going to be taken to sort that out. So in the full report that goes to the management team, that documents all actions, high, medium and low. But for the purpose of this committee, we tend to bring only high and medium actions.
Yeah, that's lovely, thank you. And there was just one other thing. It says weekly sanitation of equipment to reduce the risk of COVID-19. Through the review of the weekly inspection sheets, it was confirmed that staff are not always evidencing this process taking place. Have we looked into how we can get the staff to evidence the sanitation, etc.?
My understanding is there are inspection sheets which staff fill in when they do their inspections, and there was instances where we couldn't evidence that that was happening. So that's not to say they weren't doing the work, the actual physical, sanitization, but it's the paperwork that wasn't up to date. So that's why we raised that matter.
But again, going back to what Councillor Challoner said, it stands and falls on being able to show that we've actually completed this, doesn't it? So have we got an action for staff to be ensuring that they are completing paperwork?